Carson,
Long
great to
time
see you,
no see.
man.
You
Carson, great to
too.
see you. Welcome back to Pop Alternative, man.
So happy to be here, bro.
Yeah, we got more Sweet Magnolias to talk about. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yes, we do.
It's
40
interesting.
episodes at this point.
Dude,
Crazy.
it's so interesting too if you think about it, right? Because that script to screen journey is really interesting to me, right? Because you get these episodes, right? And then you see it come to life when you film it. Does it differ for each season for you? Is it similar? Like, what's that script to screen journey like for you with Sweet Magnolia specifically?
That is such a fantastic question. It really is. I've never been asked that before, and you're right. I mean, you have this image in your mind of how it's going to look, right? And
Yeah.
obviously the biggest change was season one because you kind of have, you know, especially being such an ensemble cast, right? There you kind of have an idea of how it's going to play out. You know, you're sitting in with they're doing the table reads. You kind of have this mental picture, right? But season one was definitely the biggest shock for me, right?
Yeah.
Because you're kind of getting used to the color correction and the way the camera kind of swings, especially during those margarita nights. Um, but yeah, I mean that's a great question. And but season four, it's season four is I love season four. Cheryl, our showrunner, sat us all down during our first table read, and she said, "This is our espresso season," because
Oh,
there's just so much that happens, and I think that's really sets it apart from the other seasons because so much is happening really so fast. I mean, you talk about the slow burn with Ty and Annie. That has been building up for 3 seasons at this point, and we
crazy.
get it in episode one, and it's so satisfying. But yeah, I mean, this season it has a different pace,
Yep.
to it, and also it tackles just some kind of like just the topics that it tackles are so real and so heartbreaking and so universal, and I think that's what makes the show really hit home is that there are just so many things. I mean, we talk about like the loss of a loved one, I mean, and that is universal in the human experience. And so to see our ensemble react in a plethora of different ways, is really special. And really, I've kind of diverged away from your question. I'm sorry, but
No, it's
but
it's cool. It's good for my next question too, because Cheryl J. Anderson does an amazing job with this because family and friends are always kind of like that is Sweet Magnolias. That is like the focal point, right? That's
yeah.
like the middle. And there's all these other kind of elements kind of blended in there and thrown in there, and we get more in each season compared to other seasons. So like what other elements kind of stand out that you really enjoy about this show? Do you like the kind of heartbreak component of it? Do you like the heartfelt? Do you like the fact that it's a bit funny? Like, are there other elements that you really enjoy as well, besides like family and friends being the focal point?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. You hit it on the head. I mean, that absolutely. Family and friends are the focal point of this show,
Yeah.
and the things that really stand out to me, like you're saying, is I love the thematically driven nature of the show, right? It really Cheryl has something that she wants to say, and she uses the characters to say it, right? And it's so brilliant. I mean, and she would talk us through kind of each season, and she said, it's okay, season one is about growth and change,
Yeah.
right? That's the theme for the season. Season two is the season of forgiveness,
Yeah.
right? And so there are all these kind of major themes being pushed, and I really enjoy that. That to me, especially like I know you're a filmmaker as well, and like that's kind of my bread and butter as a filmmaker, like your Paul Thomas Anderson type films that are just these massively thematically driven movies. I watched A Real Pain last night, and
So
that
good.
film it's just one, you can see what Jesse Eisenberg is trying to say here, and I think Cheryl like mimics that, but for TV, and
Yeah.
so that to me was one of my favorite parts about working on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting too because, there's so much that happens before you go to camera on a season of Sweet Magnolias, Carson, right? Like there's all these kind of conversations, especially bring up the Ty and Annie. And like
Yeah.
that's interesting too, because there's a lot of kind of like reading that, seeing it come to life, preparing for those arcs kind of growing and everything. So from an acting storyteller perspective, you can see it as two journeys, right? Before filming something and after filming something, or do you see it as one big journey with multiple steps in between? I'm curious about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Good question. I mean, I definitely think there's multiple steps. And to me, and this is a quote from Ethan Hawke. He said, "You want to be your character's lawyer. You want to be their advocate. Everything that they do, no matter how egregious you personally think it is, or you have to have a reason for it, right? You're their attorney. And so to me, that's a lot of, my job in prep is, okay, so I say this, obviously, or Carson wouldn't say this, but Ty is saying this. Why? And that to me is a huge part of the prep. And looking at the journey, right? And I love, well, one of my things that I do when I'm breaking down a character is I like to set up a priority list. What does this character value, right? In a hierarchical order, right? And so I did that season one, and I think a lot of those values change as we grow and as we age, and so I've done that before every season, and season not a whole lot changed between seasons 1 and 3 in terms of that hierarchical priority list, but season 4 we have this time jump, and I think Ty's whole story has been about growth since season 1, growth and change. Really. I mean, you have everything kind of kickstarted by the infidelity of his father. Yep. And then he's figuring out who he is for 3 seasons, and I think obviously that's a continuous process in the human experience, figuring out who you are. But I think he's kind of getting the idea, he's like, okay, this is who I am. I'm a creative, right? I mean, I'm an athlete as well, but no, this is where I want to live, and I think that's why he gets the courage in order to, talk to Annie. And so I think, that to me is a huge part. So back to your original question is, before we shot, I'm like, okay, Ty is figuring out who he is and who exactly, and what exactly does that mean? And the rest, so sorry, long-winded answer.
You're hitting these answers, these questions out of the park. These are amazing. And they're perfect segues to my next question. So I find it interesting, right? Because, we've established that this is a show that throws curveballs to the audience. This show has, left certain seasons more than others, have left a lot of cliffhangers. Figuring out. But we've had like certain episodes, even like episode 4 of a certain season has a big kind of reveal or a big moment, right? And I'm wondering, are you, given that this is such a passionate global fan base of Sweet Magnolias, are you ever conscious of the audience member watching or reacting to Sweet Magnolias while you're making it or while you're playing Ty? Or is that something that happens a little bit after you wrap? I know you try not to, but what do you think about that specifically? Because that interests me.
Yeah, these are fantastic questions, man. Really, they're really, really fun. So, especially with the Ty and Annie, there was some stuff like, especially during the table read, right? Well, especially the table read episode 1 of season 4, and Cheryl reads, Ty and Annie kiss, right? And that was like a too big applause of the whole. I mean, all 30 of us are in a room, and I'm sitting next to Anneliese, and so we just stuff you mentioned, like, oh, they're gonna love this, what I mean? So stuff like that, yes. From a creative perspective, I try to not let that too much inhibit, my choices. But yes, absolutely, especially during fun moments like that, like the wedding reveal. Oh, people are gonna love this, or like the reveal that Ty's got another brother. It's so those are definitely moments that we talk about behind the scenes. Like, oh, this is a really special moment. Now let's live up to it. You know what I mean?
100%. And then last question before we wrap up as well, because, we started this interview talking about family and friendship is kind of the focal point of this show. Another thing that's really big in the show, and, the writing is so good for this, is this self-reflection, slice of life, day by day kind of journey of all these characters, right? We see growth and, for example, Ty and Annie, there's this kind of figuring things out, soul searching, they're lost at times. So I'm wondering, from an acting storytelling perspective, what do you think about playing these characters that are lost, doing soul-searching, self-reflection? Is it more fun? Is it more challenging from an acting perspective? Because from the audience members' perspective, Carson, it's interesting, right? Because they don't know they're lost. So I find it interesting. So what do you think about that self-reflection component specifically?
Yeah, I love it. And to answer your question, it's all of the above, right? Yeah. Yes, it's fun, and yes, it's challenging, and it's fun because it's challenging, and because like I said, there's got to be a reason for it, right? And I think, in going back to the universality of these characters and of the show, that year after high school or a year after college, or those late teens, early 20s, of me and so many of my friends, you feel lost, right? You're still figuring out your place in the world. And so not only, it's such a universal experience and so true. And so, I think that's why people gravitate toward, and that's why I gravitate toward that. I mean, I felt so much of what Ty has felt, and I can kind of, see through Ty's lens what he's feeling and what he's going through as he's trying to find his feet in the world. And so, I mean, it's so much fun, and yes, it's challenging. And I think the challenge is what brings the fun. But when you're working with such a rich group of creatives, like Cheryl or like Norman, these are people who you go up to and talk to and say, hey, let's discuss this, and let's figure out what exactly is going through his mind. What's the subtext here? Absolutely. And so, we've discovered stuff that, maybe Cheryl didn't even mean to put there, but through collaboration, we're like, oh, this works. Let's play that, and so that whole process, that challenge is really what makes it so fun, and the universality of
I love like the use of the word like collaboration in there, because I feel like that is just, I mean, this is a team, it's a community, man. It's people making a show and putting all their passion in it. That's what it's all about, right? If you think about it.
That's exactly what it is. It's so fun. And I think being such an ensemble show, people can see it more, see the like village that it takes in order to get these characters on your screen. It's really fascinating. And it continues to blow my mind. The hundreds of people working on the show. Yeah. And just this show alone, and that takes so much time and so much effort and so much talent. And so, I mean, we're just blessed with an incredible cast, incredible crew, incredible creatives, and especially after spending, I mean, this is year 6 of the show, right? I mean, or 5.5 now at this point. Yeah. To spend that much time with someone and to really, I mean, really, I grew up on the show, and so to spend all this time with these people and to really get to know them and to grow up with them, it's really been just such an incredible experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And, season 4 of Sweet Magnolias is streaming now worldwide on Netflix, so they can check it out. What's a crazy thing someone told me a while ago, and I'm like, it sounds like a nightmare doing this with a show like Sweet Magnolias. I've had people for like those big shows, like, because sometimes it takes a while for like between season 3 and season 4, right? So you need like a refresher and everything. I've had some people like purposely like not watch a finale of like a season 3 of a show and then wait to watch the finale and the premiere of season 4 back to back. Could you imagine doing that with Sweet Magnolias?
The amount of like effort that would take, I cannot do that. Who's ever doing that? Like,
can you imagine like season 2 to season 3?
No, I can't. That's insane. That's crazy. Good for them.
Awesome.
I do not have the
I know. Someone brought that up. I saw that at a podcast once and I was like, that is really strange. And I'm trying to like think about whether people could actually do that. Like, how could people do that? But again, don't do that. People have watched season 3. Now they can watch season 4. Yes. Carson, so great catching up, man. Thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Oh, I'd love to. Anytime, bro.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Your Instagram account is just your name, eh? People want to keep up to date with everything?
Yes. Carson Rowland.
Awesome. This has been Pop Turner at youtube.com/Pop Turner previous episodes. You can, of course, catch Carson Rowland as Ty in season 4 of Sweet Magnolias, streaming worldwide on Netflix. Till next time, it's Carson and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.